Welcome everyone to Raw Dog Game Reviews. I'm the Raw Dog, and this is what we do here at Raw Dog Game Reviews. I'm going to review a game I recently played. But here's the catch. There's no script and no editing. I'm just going to ramble on my review for the game, off the top of my head, off the cuff if you will. Now that that's out of the way, let's get to it, and let's go in Raw Dog.
Okay, today we are talking about One Piece Odyssey. This is a really good JRPG game. If you don't know what JRPG means, well, it means Japanese role-playing game. And yeah, this is a really good one. I'm a big fan of One Piece, and I'm a big fan of JRPGs. So I have to say, definitely, One Piece Odyssey, really good. Really standout game. I really enjoy playing it. So, let's get down to it. Now, the graphics. The graphics are pretty standard. It looks good for what it is. I mean, it's not going to blow you away. It doesn't look realistic. It doesn't look lifelike. But then again, it's not supposed to. It looks like One Piece, which is exactly what it's trying to do. It's trying to look like One Piece. So it does the job. But then again, at that same point, it looks very beautifully like One Piece. The art style is on point. Looks just like it came right out of the manga, came right out of the anime, whatever you want to say. It looks like it belongs. It's definitely part of it. It doesn't look like it's trying to be something different. It looks like it's trying to be exactly what it is. One Piece. And that's perfect. So, yeah, it just looks good. There's not really much else to say. The graphics really aren't going to blow you away. But, I mean, the art direction looks good. The new island looks great. The whole setting looks really nice. It just looks good. I mean, if you've played other, like, cel-shaded, it's not really cel-shaded. I guess it is. I'm not really good on the art stuff. If you played other games like this, like the Naruto Ultimate Ninja that I talked about before, then you know what to expect. It looks like the anime. It looks good. It looks clean. It looks smooth. It looks good. Yeah, I'm just saying it looks good a lot. So, yeah. Anyway, let's move off that topic and move on to something far more interesting. Let's move on to the story. I want to talk about the gameplay last, because I think I'm going to go pretty hard on the gameplay because it's pretty crazy. It's honestly pretty damn interesting. But anyway, to get into that, let us go right ahead and go for the story. The story is, again, nothing special. It is honestly nothing to write home about. I'm a big fan of One Piece. I said that earlier. Obviously I didn't start off with it. My first anime was, I don't know, Sailor Moon. But probably, anyway. Yeah, I'm a big fan of One Piece. I've read all the chapters up to this point. I've watched all the anime up to this point. And, you know, it's got over 1,000 chapters, got over 1,000 episodes. It's a really big anime, really big manga. It's a really big deal, and it is one of the best. I don't really care about your opinion of One Piece, but you have to admit that it's one of the best mangas or one of the best animes. It might not be one of your favorites. You might not even like it, but you have to admit it's one of the best. I mean, you don't get to having over 1,000 episodes and over 1,000 issues or chapters or volumes. No, not volumes. Over 1,000 chapters without being flippin' amazing. So all the credit goes to Oda and his awesomeness. Yes. Anyway, to get back to that, the story is, like I said, nothing to write home about. Unfortunately, I would say the story is probably the weakest part of the game, because it's all been there, done that, and it's honestly pretty lackluster, especially with the way that it chooses to do it. Because, like I said, the graphics are good. The graphics are pretty standout. The game just looks good. The animation is smooth. It looks tight. It feels good. There is honestly nothing bad I could say about the graphics. It's on point. It looks like One Piece. It's perfect. It's what you want for a One Piece JRPG. It doesn't do anything too flashy. It's perfect. And like I said with the story, yeah, it's a completely different thing. The story is just completely lackluster and honestly just boring. I found myself really bored in the story. But it doesn't mean it's not good. I just kind of wish they did it better. I played the One Piece Romance Dawn on the 3DS a long time ago, and that was great. That was practically the same story. Pretty much almost the same story, considering that's obviously more like 2/3 of it, but it's still almost the same. And it just did it better. It just did it better. When Romance Dawn came out, the story was not nearly as far along, so they were only up to, I forget what they were up to, honestly. It was a long time ago. But I know that the story covered all the way up to the Impel Down area. You went through all the way through Impel Down. So, considering that this game also goes through Impel Down and then you get like 2 other places after that, it's barely longer, which is the problem. But anyway, Romance Dawn did it as you just played through the story. You played through the events of One Piece all the way up through Impel Down. And yeah, that was cool. It's really fun. It's fun to go through all the epic battles of One Piece, to go through all the storylines, all the parts that were the biggest moments of One Piece. It's cool to relive them in the game. It's not cool when the game's whole excuse for reliving them is, oh, this girl messed up your memories and now she's your friend, kind of, and she's going to help you get your memories back. So that's the whole story. That's it. She messed with your memories. Well, not really memories. They all remember what happened. But she messed with your powers in the past, and now you have to get your powers back by reliving your memories. And that is the entire plot line. So instead of just going through the old stories, you actually have to go through them again as a flashback kind of thing where parts of it are different, but not really different enough to be interesting. They're just kind of different. You can't see it, but I have air quotes. Kind of different. And that's where it's boring. It's like, if you were going to do this, I would just rather the game be the game. I would just rather go through these events again and relive the story as it was beautifully told and beautifully awesome. Why mix them around and why make them weird? If you want to do flashbacks, just do flashbacks. I don't really understand why the flashbacks had to be messed with to seem like new or something. Just try to make them new again. It's unnecessary. So yeah, that's the story. But the other half of the story, actually I'd probably say the other third of it, it's not a half. The other third of it is that you are trying to help I don't remember his name, the person that lives on this island with the girl, open these temples, defeat the Guardians. I guess I should call them the Colossi because they're called Colossus. They're called Colossi. So anyway, defeat the Colossi and bring to life this ancient weapon that he wants to control and take over. I guess take over the government, take over the world. Yeah, something like that. And yeah, you're basically helping him without knowing that you're helping him. Again, air quotes, because it's pretty easy to figure out. The audience, being me, being you, I hope that you can figure it out. I figured it out pretty quickly. It's a very basic, easy, oh, he's going to betray you anime plot line. It's very easy to see coming. So I hope you figure that out. Anyway, yeah, that's it. That's the entire story. that's it. It's go to the past, relive your memories, then you get power back, then help this guy defeat a Colossi, then do it again, then do it again, then do it. Yeah, you get the point. It's rinse, wash, and repeat. It's, like I said, nothing to write home about. Honestly, kind of a boring story. But it fits the medium and it does exactly what it needs to do, which is gives you a whole lot of fun gameplay, which is the traditional JRPG. So let's go right into gameplay. That is where this game stands out the most for me. Because like I said, graphics, normal, story, lackluster and kind of boring, but okay. And yeah, here we go. Gameplay, the biggest point of this game. The gameplay. It goes for a good old standard fashioned four character team JRPG. But you can also have guest characters. And you can have... Did I have 3? I think you can have 2 at a time. Yeah, I think you can have 2 at a time in your party. You can have technically more in your party, but they won't show up in combat. Only 2 will show up in combat at any given time. So technically you can have 6 characters in combat at a time. But honestly, the guests are forgettable. I usually just kind of forgot the guests are even there until their turn finally came up, and I was kind of like, oh, that's right, I have a guest character. Because they don't really, they're barely even visible on the screen, on the map, on the screen. So anyway, but with that 4 players, they have a very standard JRPG layout where you pick your attacks, you attack your enemies, and you could do special skills, which are kind of like magic attacks. if you're going for other JRPGs, and you fight the enemies. It's very standard, very good. It's standard, but that's not a bad thing. I like standard old school JRPGs. It feels like it came right out of the old school Final Fantasy 6, 7, 8 era with the good old fashioned JRPG, turn-based battles. It just feels good old standard JRPG, which is perfectly what I wanted it to be. So anyway, yeah. Now the cool things it does is that it puts you in like fields on the map, or I should say zones. It calls them zones. It puts you in zones on the map, and you can change your zones, and you want to use them to strategically fight your enemies because it has a whole rock paper scissors thing going on, kind of like it's out of Fire Emblem, where some enemies are technical, some enemies are power, and some enemies are speed. I should also say some characters. I should actually just say some characters because it's also on your characters. So, for instance, Luffy is a power character, which makes sense. Sanji is a power character, which that actually didn't make sense to me. I figured he'd be a speed character. Honestly, only having 3 types kind of was a downfall of it. I figured they should have more types, and the types that they picked were kind of odd, in my opinion. I feel like Sanji should have been a speed character, but then again, they wanted you as the player to have 3 of each type. So the ones they picked for power were Luffy, Chopper, and Sanji as power characters, Frankie, Usopp, and Nami as speed characters, and Robin, Zoro, and Brook as technical characters. Which kind of works. Kind of. But it's also kind of weird. If I was going to design the character lineup, I would have made Luffy power, obviously. Sanji speed, and I would have kept Zoro as technical, just to have one of each in the one of each of the power characters of the group. I consider them the top 3 power members of the group, obviously. Just to have one of them in each lineup. But it doesn't do that. So your speed characters end up being very, very weak characters because it's Usopp, Frankie. Well, Frankie's not that weak. Frankie and Nami. So for pretty much, I would say for over half the game, because you don't unlock Frankie right away, for like over half the game, you are basically just switching between Nami and Usopp, who are both kind of weak. I'm not going to say garbage. They're not garbage. They're just definitely more support weak characters. So they're not very strong. So your party is usually going to be Luffy, Chopper, Zoro, and Sanji. That was my main party. So I would think that's most people's main party. And then I would usually switch out Sanji for other characters here and there when I needed to switch out for different types. Doing like a Pokemon battle up in here, switching out for type advantages. But anyway, yeah. I also wouldn't have put Robin in the same category as Zoro. It's just kind of weird. But she is very technical, but it just seems odd for her to be the same character type as the other 2 Blade characters. It just seems odd. I probably would have put Speed as Sanji, Brook, and Usopp. Yeah, Usopp. And then I would have put Technical as, Zoro, Nami, and Robin. Yeah, honestly, I would have preferred to put Technical as Usopp, Nami, and Robin. I would have preferred that. It just left the other characters as is. Like let the Zoro as a power or as a speed type. Honestly, should have said a power type. But anyway, yes. So to go on, there's to get back to the gameplay. There is the zones. You can move around. You can do things. But now the cool thing about the zones, like I said, you can use type advantages. You want to move around your characters. Now, the interesting thing is that the zones can actually be really cheaped out. You can cheap out the entire game pretty much. To the point of where, Luffy is fighting a whole bunch of technical characters. Technical is strong as power. I think that's what it was. Don't quote me on that. I forgot, honestly. I played the game a couple weeks ago now. Anyway, so yeah, if you're in the wrong type advantage, and you're thinking, oh no, I gotta move this character, but I can't move because the enemies are in my zones, and you can only move your characters around when the zone is empty. Yeah, that's a lie. You can just pick to switch out the character. So I could switch Luffy out for an empty character that I have. Like, say Nami's not in my current battle party. I switch him out to Nami. And now Nami is now in that zone. So now I can go over to the other zone where Luffy would be able to beat the crap out of everybody, and I can just plop Luffy into that zone, and then I can go back and move people around. So you can really easily get around the zones and how they kind of trap, air quotes again, trap you into fighting these characters. You can very easily manipulate it. So where you can just kind of go through it. Now, So now that the zones are done, and honestly, the status effects in the game are kind of useless. I basically never use status effects in the entire game, and that's where I'm going to get to the next point of the game. The level system is ridiculously weird. The level system is bonkers, and I have no other way to explain it. And I can't explain it. It's just bonkers. I felt like the game leveled me up as it wanted to level me up, and that I wasn't actually participating in the level up process. At least kind of, because I leveled up so awkwardly sometimes that I didn't have any idea why I leveled up, or how I reached the amount of experience leveled up, or how I didn't level up before when I did reach a really ridiculously high amount of experience. So let me try to break this down in the time that we have left, because I want to try to keep this video not terribly long. So anyway, yeah, I could not really explain level up to you at all, but I will try to. Here we go. You obviously level up by experience, and you need a certain amount of experience to level up. It changes with your levels and all that stuff, all the usual things. But the amount of experience you gain from combat drastically changes from combat to combat to combat. Sometimes you gain a pretty standard amount of experience for wherever you are in the game. Other times, a special event will come up during the combat that says, hey, defeat these enemies before they run away, or something similar like that. Or defeat these enemies in one turn, or defeat these enemies before your crew member gets knocked out. Something like that, some special event. And doing that will net you bonus experience. Now you might think like, oh, that's cool, I can get like some bonus experience. Maybe a bonus 1,000, maybe 2 times experience. No, that would make sense. The game gives you like times 5 experience. It's ridiculous. I've been in combats where I was going to get like 4,000 experience, and then I did one of those events, and I got 40,000 experience. And it's just like, excuse me? What? That's the change is so drastic that it's just utterly ridiculous. It makes no sense how the game just blasts you with experience. So you level up like insanely weirdly. It got to the point where my party was, I guess, over-leveled because, yeah, I went from starting the game at like level 5. I think I started the game around level 5. I went into the first dungeon and got a couple of these fights, and I left the dungeon like level 20. And I was like, what happened? Am I ridiculously over-leveled now? Or was I supposed to do that? Because these were just perfectly normal things that happened to me in the fights. I got those events. I got thousands and thousands and thousands of experience, and my characters just jumped up levels like it was their birthdays or something. I do not know what happened. And yeah, that continued to happen throughout the game, where I would just be going through levels or going through memories, I guess, whatever you want to call them. And yeah, I would just keep getting these giant clumps of experience and getting level ups. So I basically just brute forced the game, which I didn't really mean to. I don't usually like to, honestly. In most JRPGs, I try to follow a rule of 5s, or at least what I call rule of 5s, which is start the game, grow 5 levels. So go wherever you can to grow 5 levels. Then get to your first dungeon, grow 5 levels. Then get out of the dungeon and be in the world map and grow 5 levels. Basically, try to grow 5 levels per dungeon. And I usually try to do it at the beginning of the dungeon so that walking through the dungeon gets you closer to those next 5 levels. So maybe you grew another level while in the dungeon. So that means to reach my next rule of 5s, I only need to actually grow 4 levels. It keeps your levels even, it keeps your characters pretty even, and it keeps you about 5 to 10 levels over the bosses usually, which is pretty standard. Doesn't give you the power to purely brute force the entire game, but it gives you enough leeway to do what you want and not have to, risk everything in a boss fight, which is a standard boss fight, not like a secret boss fight. So anyway, but this game I completely brute forced. I never felt challenged in the entire game. I never felt challenged once. And like I said, honestly, throughout the rest of the game, because of this, I never grinded. I never grinded once more at all throughout the entire game, except for that initial grind. And because of the way the combat worked out, I just fought most enemies that came into contact with me. I basically never ran. And just doing that casually, I was able to grind through the game without actually grinding. And that's where it's weird. But yeah, I never felt a challenge until the DLC. The DLC, I actually felt real challenge in the game, which is weird because the DLC actually really gave me really challenge. Some of the boss fights were actually really, really difficult, where I had to really sit down and think and take like an hour to do that boss fight and really work around my HP and all these things. And yeah, Chopper comes in real handy, giving Chopper TP bonuses and TP renewal. Oh man, keeping Chopper healing like every turn. It's great. It's glorious. But honestly, most of the game can be brute forced. So, starting to wrap up here. Yeah, the game is good. The graphics are solid. The story is lackluster. The gameplay is where the game shines. The JRPG of it is really good. All of the characters are really good. The gameplay is nice and fun. I would say the only problem I really had with the gameplay is, like I said, that the level system was ridiculously weird. There were some times that I was able to get like 9 million XP from a fight, and I didn't grow a level. And I was like, excuse me? Why didn't I grow a level? The next fight I got into, I grew a level. And it was like, oh, that's cool. Maybe I was just like off by like 1,000 experience or something. But then I would get like another 50,000 or 200,000 experience in another big fight, and then I would grow like 3 levels. I'd be like, wait, excuse me? But I got 9 million before and didn't grow and barely grew 1 level. And now I just got like 60,000 and grew 2 levels. What? It's ridiculously confusing. I honestly cannot express enough how confusing the level up system was and how confused I was by the level up system. But that didn't take away from the fun of the game. The game was really fun. The only thing I didn't like about the special combat, the special moves, was I didn't like how Luffy only got Gear 2 as a mode. Although I feel that happens a lot in a lot of the One Piece games. Luffy gets Gear 2, and that's the only mode he gets. He can do Gear 3 techniques, but he can't use it as like a giant mode. He can do Gear 4 techniques, but he can't use it as a mode to like stay in Gear 4. And I feel like that's just stupid. I feel like there definitely should have been a Gear 4 mode. Like for like like going Super Saiyan in a Dragon Ball Z game. You should just be able to sit in Gear 4 for a while. Now, I understand that, but I understand why it didn't work for Gear 3, but it should work for Gear 4, especially the way that Gear 4 is used in the show. But anyway, like I said, it doesn't really detract from the game. The game itself was good. Most enemies you could just wrap up, you could brute force all the fights. The game was really standout. Really had a lot of fun grinding it out and doing a lot of the missions, a lot of fun. So yeah, I enjoyed the game. I recommend it, but I also recommend it for hardcore JRPG people, and also for a relatively casual JRPG experience, because you can just kind of, brute force it and just get through it without having to worry about grinding or going crazy. Unless you want to do the DLC. The DLC, yeah, you're going to need to grind for, and you're also going to need to be willing to sit in those fights and just think about, oh man, can I actually make it through this fight or not? Because those DLC fights get pretty challenging, which was good because the rest of the game was not challenging at all. So to close out, the game was good. I recommend it. I enjoyed it. Have a good time. One Piece Odyssey. Definitely an enjoyable JRPG, and probably one of the best One Piece games I played. I've played most of the One Piece games that have come out, and I have to say that one of the better ones. Right up there with Romance Dawn. Although Romance Dawn is definitely my favorite and was definitely better. I liked it a lot better. But still a really good standout JRPG game based on One Piece. Great.
Okay, well, that was my raw review. Thanks for listening, and if you liked it and want to hear more, you can like and subscribe. But I'll be back here regardless whether you like it or not, with more Raw Dog Gaming Reviews. See you next time. Bye-bye!